Just then, a scream came from somewhere in the inn, disrupting their conversation. Rolf sat up in his bed as they looked at one another, surprised and confused. They then heard what sounded like glass breaking and furniture being broken and slamming into walls, followed by the rumbling of feet on the wooden floor. Axel quickly armed himself with the reading lamp and walked over to open the door. As the footsteps pounded down the hallway, getting closer and closer, he swung open the door, and out of instinct, Axel quickly swung the lamp and struck the perpetrator in the head. He gasped when he saw Mr. Whaley collapse on the floor. "Mommy," Mr. Whaley moaned in pain. "Axel, you just attacked Mr. Whaley." Lonnie shook his head. Axel, bug-eyed, tried to figure out what had just transpired. He dropped the lamp and stepped closer to Mr. Whaley when someone tackled him from behind and slammed him onto the ground. He couldn't breathe. He managed to scramble around and came face to face with a growling, drooling male African wild dog. Frantically, Axel tried to fend off the dog with his hands as the wild dog's snapping jaw tried to take a bite out of him. The dog's furry hands clawed at his bare chest. "Axel!" Lonnie screamed as he tried to grab the dog, but it was no use. Just when Axel thought his strength was giving away, he heard what sounded like the banging of metal and felt the body of the wild dog collapse on top of him. "You okay, Axel?" Rolf asked as he set down the lamp. With a heave, he rolled the unconscious dog off him. "I think so," Axel answered as Rolf helped him to his feet. In disgust, he wiped some of the dog drool off his chest. Axel, Lonnie and Rolf all turned their attention to Mr. Whaley, who was finally beginning to regain consciousness. "Sorry about the blow to the head, but what's going on here, Mr. Whaley?" Axel asked. "I haven't a clue." Mr. Whaley rubbed the bump on his head. "I heard a commotion in Mr. Anderson's room. When he wouldn't answer, I opened the door and he just charged at me like a mad dog." No sooner after Mr. Whaley had finished his sentence, sounds of police sirens and screaming were heard outside. The four of them rushed over to the window to see what the ruckus was. A mob of people moved around a now wrecked police car. Their movements were jagged and disjointed in an unnatural motion as they navigated the streets. Even from this distance, Axel could tell that their mouths were foaming with drool, snapping for flesh, mirroring the actions of Mr. Anderson. These guys looked like they just stepped out of the latest zombie movie, Axel thought. Their attention diverted from the car to two officers fearfully fleeing the scene. With a loud shrill, the zombie-like crowd launched into a mad dash, chasing the officers into the darkness of the streets, all the while flailing their claws and snapping their jaws like wild animals. Suddenly, they heard the familiar growling sound gurgling from Mr. Anderson's body. His eyes glazed over while rabid drool dripped from the sides of his mouth. Axel quickly ran over and began to bind his limbs with his guitar cables. "What do you suppose happened to him?" Mr. Whaley asked as he scratched his head. "I don't know, but apparently it's the same thing that happened to those folks outside," Axel said. "How's that even possible?" Rolf wondered aloud. Axel, lost in thought, was quiet for a moment before shaking his head to regain his focus over the chaotic sounds emanating from the streets. "I don't know and don't care, but I think we better cut our little vacation short." "Yeah, I hear the Misty Mountains are nice this time of year," Lonnie said as he tried to hide his fidgeting hands while gathering his belongings. Mr. Anderson's body began to show signs of movement as he struggled to thrash his body forward in an attempt to break free from the cable restraints. A constant low gurgling growled from Mr. Anderson's throat and increased in pitch as his body lurched forward. "You know, I think I could use a vacation myself," Mr. Whaley said. Maybe you guys can take me with you? Axel slipped on his studded leather jacket and strapped his red guitar over his back. Then I suggest we arm ourselves with our best instrument and make a run for the van. But I don't have an instrument, Mr. Whaley quivered. Then ask Lonnie for one of his kazoos, Axel yelled. Rolf strapped his blue Les Paul to his back and Lonnie strapped on his backpack, while Mr. Whaley stood paralysed in fearful confusion. Axel rolled his eyes. I was kidding, Whaley. If you want a weapon, grab a lamp. Having grabbed their belongings, Axel, Rolf and Lonnie quickly exited the room. I knew that, Mr. Whaley whispered, feeling embarrassed. Suddenly, Mr. Anderson let out a loud, monstrous growl, this time lurching forward onto his belly, causing Mr. Whaley to nearly jump out of his skin. Mr. Anderson struggled intensely as he tried to free his limbs from the guitar cables. He looked completely rabid. White foam dripped from his mouth. Wait up, guys! Mr. Whaley hurried to catch up.